Summary of Light in August by William Faulkner. From Alabama to Mississippi, a young lady named Lena Grove, who is pregnant and has never been married, is making her way across the country barefoot. On the way, she meets two guys, Winterbottom and Armistead. Armistead offers her a ride and then asks her to stay the night at his house. Lena says that she is looking for Lucas Birch, the father of her child. He left Alabama and said he would send for her, but it looks like he never did. She is sure she will find him and bring the family back together before the baby is born. Martha, who is married to Armistead, feels sorry for Lena and gives her the money she has saved up from selling eggs. The next day, when Lena gets to Jefferson, she sees a house on fire in the distance. A worker at the Jefferson planing mill named Byron Bunch remembers when a stranger showed up and started working there. The man seemed to have come out of nowhere, and his name, Joe Christmas, was strange. Soon, Christmas moves into a Negro cabin on the land of spinster Joanna Burden, who is white and in her mid-40s. Joe Brown, who is also new to Jefferson and the planing mill, moves into the house not long after. Brown starts a business selling fake booze, and people think Christmas has something to do with it. Byron has worked at the planing mill for 7 years, but the shamed preacher Rev. Gail Hightower is the only person he knows in Jefferson. When Lena gets to Jefferson, she meets Byron at the planing mill. She had been told that he was Lucas, but that was a mistake because their last names, Bunch and Birch, are similar. Byron likes Lena and agrees to help her find Lucas because he's in love with her. But they soon find out that Lucas is really Joe Brown, who has been living under a fake name. Hightower fell from favor because of what his wife, Mrs. Hightower, did. She had an affair with another man and died in Memphis. It's not clear if she was killed, died in an accident, or killed herself. After this scandal, people tried to get Hightower to quit as a preacher and leave Jefferson. Even though he quit his job, he refused to leave the town, even when the KKK tried to scare him away with violence. Everyone eventually forgot about the story, and Hightower was left alone to live a quiet life. Hightower and Byron talk about Joanna's house that is on fire. Byron helps Lena find a place to stay at Mrs. Beard's boarding house, which is also where he lives. Then, it turns out that Joanna's dead body was found in the house, with almost all of her head cut off. Her nephew in the north is offering a $1,000 prize to whoever finds the person who killed her. At this point, Brown tells the sheriff that Christmas killed Joanna and that Christmas once told Brown that he is black, even though he looks white. Christmas, on the other hand, is acting crazy and antsy. He keeps telling himself that he had to kill Joanna because she started praying over him. The story then jumps back to Christmas's childhood, when he was only 5 years old and living in an orphanage. The orphanage's live-in cook and cleaner hated Christmas and couldn't wait for the moment when the truth about his race would be revealed. One day, the janitor kidnaps Christmas and takes him to a home for black children. The cops find him and take him back to the orphanage for white children. Shortly after that, Christmas is taken in by McEachern, a strict, religious enthusiast. When Christmas is 8 years old, McEachern beats him badly because he hasn't learned his religion. Mrs. McEachern is much nicer to Christmas than her husband. She brings him food in secret and tries to shield him from her husband's punishments, but Christmas refuses to accept her kindness. At age 17, Joe meets Bobby, a young woman who works as a waitress at a rundown restaurant in town that is really a brothel. He likes her, but doesn't talk to her until he's 18 and a year later. After some awkward first encounters, the two start dating. After they've been together for a few weeks and had sex, Christmas tells Bobby that he's black, but she doesn't believe him. Mrs. McEachern's money is stolen by Christmas so he can buy gifts for Bobby. Christmas eventually finds out that Bobby is a prostitute. At first, he is shocked and hits her, but he keeps seeing her and starts calling her his whore. One day, Christmas and Bobby are at a dance when McEachern shows up and starts to threaten them. Christmas hits his adopted father in the head with a chair, which seems to kill him. Christmas goes home to get more money. When he gets there, he sees a worried Mrs. McEachern, but he doesn't tell her what happened to her husband. Instead, he laughs cruelly at her. He gives Bobby the money and says that he thought they would get married now, but Bobby yells at him and calls him an son of a bitch. Christmas gets knocked out by a stranger who is also in the house, and when Christmas comes around, Bobby is gone. Christmas spends 15 years living in different parts of the United States and Mexico as both a black man and a white guy. While he is in Chicago and Detroit, he fully fits in with black neighborhoods and tries to get rid of his whiteness, but he fails. At the age of 33, he moves to Jefferson. He meets Joanna after breaking into her house and eating food in her kitchen. Joanna doesn't get mad at him. Instead, she accepts him. Soon after, she and Christmas start a sexual relationship, and Christmas moves into the cabin on Joanna's land. Joanna tells the story of her family at Christmas. Calvin Burden, Sr. was born in New Hampshire, but he ran away from home when he was 12 years old. He was against slavery and killed a guy during a fight about it. Nathaniel took after his father in not liking slavery. Nathaniel, who was 14 at the time, also ran away. He had a boy named Calvin Jr. with a Mexican woman named Juana. In the end, a Confederate soldier who used to own slaves killed both Calvins in Jefferson during a fight about giving black people the right to vote. Nathaniel and Joanna chose to stay in the area even though they have never been welcomed there because both Calvins are buried there. At first, Christmas and Joanna were very emotional about each other, but as time goes on and Joanna gets older and, presumably, goes through menopause, she becomes more religious and rigid. This makes Christmas so mad that he doesn't want to get married to her or have kids with her. One day, when Joanna keeps asking Christmas to pray with her, he kills her, though the book doesn't say exactly when this happened, so it's not clear what happened. People in Jefferson quickly find out that Joanna's house is on fire and that her body is inside. People start to talk about who might have killed her, and many think it must have been a black person. After Brown tells the sheriff what happened, a chase starts to find Christmas. Byron plans to bring Lena to live in the cabin on Joanna's land because it is the closest thing Brown has to a home for her. Brown is currently focused on getting the prize money for catching Christmas. Neither Byron nor Lena have talked to Brown yet. Hightower tells Byron that he shouldn't try to get between Lena and Brown. A black man runs to the sheriff to tell him that Christmas just went into a black church in Mottstown, the town next to Jefferson, and threatened the minister before beating and breaking the head of one of the churchgoers. The sheriff goes after Christmas right away, even though he hasn't eaten or slept in several days. Mr. and Mrs. Hines are an old couple who live in the town of Mottstown. People in the town think they're weird. When Mr. Hines sees that a group of men in Mottstown are holding Christmas hostage, he throws a fit and orders that Christmas be killed. Mrs. Hines comes home and calms down her husband. She tries to visit Christmas in jail, but she only gets a quick look at him as the Jefferson sheriff is taking him to the Jefferson jail. The next day, Byron takes Mr. and Mrs. Hines to Hightower's house. They say that Christmas is their grandson, the child of their daughter Millie and a Mexican guy Mr. Hines thought was black. Because of this, Mr. Hines tried to convince Millie to have an abortion. When he failed, he stole the baby after it was born and took it to a shelter. He then got a job as a cleaner at the shelter to keep an eye on the child while Millie and Mrs. Hines thought he was dead. It is now clear that Mr. Hines was the cleaner who stole Christmas. Mrs. Hines says that she doesn't want to stop Christmas from being punished if he really did kill the man, but she wants him to die in a decent, legal way instead of being hanged. Byron asks Hightower to give him an alibi for Christmas, saying that he was with him the night of the murder. This request makes Hightower very angry, so he says no. The next morning, Lena goes into labor, and Byron asks Hightower to take care of her while he goes to get the doctor. Years ago, Hightower used information from a book to help a black woman in the area give birth. Hightower goes to Lena's house to help her give birth. Mrs. Hines is also there, holding the baby, who she keeps calling Joey, while she keeps calling Lena Millie. Byron tells the sheriff about Lena and Brown, and the sheriff sends his officer, Burford, to force Brown to see Lena and his newborn son. Then, Byron gets on his horse and goes away, leaving Jefferson for good. Brown is shocked when he sees Lena and the baby sleeping in the house. He quickly runs away again. He finds a black man in the area and writes a note to the sheriff asking him to give the man the prize money so the man can bring it to Brown. Gavin Stevens, the district attorney, has been in charge of the grand jury that is trying Christmas. He tells a friend of his about Christmas's last hours. Christmas got out of jail and went to Hightower's house, possibly because Mrs. Hines had told him that Hightower would save him. But a local guy named Percy Grimm, who was very loyal, found Christmas in Hightower's house and killed him. The story of Hightower's family is told in the second-to-last chapter. His grandfather was a hero in the Civil War for the Confederacy. Everyone in Hightower's family admired him, especially Hightower's nanny, Cynthia, who had been his grandpa's slave. Hightower's father was the exact opposite of his grandpa. He didn't drink and was against slavery. After the Civil War, he was a preacher and then a doctor. Hightower has always been so interested in the past, especially his grandpa, that it has gotten in the way of him living a normal life. At the end of the chapter, Hightower has an intense dream in which he might die. In the last chapter, a furniture salesman talks about picking up a man, a woman, and a child, who turn out to be Byron, Lena, and Lena's baby. At first glance, they are still looking for Lucas. They hitch a ride with the furniture salesman and sleep in his truck that night. During the night, the furniture seller hears Byron trying to get into the truck with Lena and being gently turned down. Then Byron goes away for a while, but he comes back and says that he's come too far to give up now. The furniture seller says that it doesn't seem like Lena is looking for anything, but rather that she's just set to keep going on her endless journey.
About the author. William Faulkner grew up in Oxford, Mississippi, with his 4 brothers. He got a good education at home from both his mother and his babysitter, Kenny Barr, and he did well in school. He was named after his grandpa, William Clark Faulkner, who was a hero in the Civil War. In fact, he was born with the name Faulkner, but he changed it after a typesetter misread it and Faulkner chose to go with it. Faulkner started writing when he was in his teens, but it was hard for him to get his work published at first. He went to the University of Mississippi for 3 semesters, but he didn't do well there, so he dropped out. He went to New Orleans and wrote Soldier's Pay, which came out in 1926. In 1929, he married Estelle Oldham. That same year, he started writing As I Lay Dying, which became one of his most famous books. During his life, Faulkner had a mixed record as a writer. Even though he was well known and won the Nobel Prize in Literature, some authors and reviewers didn't like his experimental style, and it was hard for him to make enough money to live on. He was an alcoholic, and he died of a heart attack at the age of 64.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.